Hey, and welcome to another Main Contain Fishing podcast, man. It has been a while since we have did a live broadcast. Uh, the world and the year is coming to an end. I wouldn't say the world is, but the year is coming to an end. Um, Hoping everybody's getting everything finalized for the little red man coming down the chimney. So what we have tonight is Mr. Marvin Santana. He is the 2024 Georgia Tour Kayak Series Angler of the Year. And we're going to bring him on shortly and let him be introduced to the world of podcasting and the world of just fishing in general. Get him to introduce himself, and let's bring him on. Marvin, thank you for joining us on the Main Contain Fishing podcast. Welcome.
What's going on? What's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. Hopefully everything is going well in Augusta, Georgia tonight. Hope everything's quiet up there and a little cool.
Oh yeah, weather's cooling down. Of course, that little cold front came through and cooled things off for a little bit. I was hoping it lasts a little bit longer, where I could get into that little warm rain. Warm rain and cold water does magical things. So unfortunately, I missed that.
Yeah. So we got a few guys watching here on the tube. We got Mr. Tim Williams. He's from Jacksonville, Florida.
What's up, Tim?
We've got Mr. Steven Sturgeon from Frozen Central, Illinois. Man, have you seen that lake effect snow they've been receiving up there in New York today?
Oh yeah,
Like 28 inches, man. It's horrible.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't live up there.
Definitely slow some stuff down up there for a little bit.
And Mr. John Wilson from good old Central Georgia here. So Marvin, what we're gonna do, we're gonna let you introduce yourself to the world, man, and kick it off here and kind of introduce yourself and tell us how you got into kayak bass fishing, and
cool.
And we'll go from there.
All right. So I guess a lot of I'm not one of the only ones that started, but I guess kind of COVID kind of got me into the tournament scene type deal. I started really with Southern Moon Outfitters, was one of the local like pro kayak shops that started out here a little bit before that all that happened and COVID and stuff like that. But I just decided to buy a Pelican from Academy and work my way on up, up the lines of getting better kayaks. But it didn't take a whole lot for me to, get out on the water and, just a couple rods and a couple reels and me in the water. And that's all I really needed. And once I got into that, it just started growing from there. And I just started liking it more a whole lot and spending a whole lot more time doing that kind of stuff. And I just fell in love with it, period. I don't know. I just got the fish bug real bad.
Like everybody else did during that pandemic. I think the fishing markets really saw a boost in their sales during that time.
Oh,
yeah. And now it's kind of come back and you can find stuff on the shelf now. I remember walking into Dick's Sporting Goods. They said, well, man, we ain't got nothing to fish about.
Yeah.
So,
No, there was no Cincos, no flukes, no spinner baits in the right color.
no.
And then of course, and depending on what time you went into the store, there was always lines and stuff like that. So it was definitely something different, and definitely like a life-changing scenario for a lot of folks, some good and some bad, but ultimately, it's a lesson we all had to learn, and we're still learning from it.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you're from the Augusta area, so you get to fish a big reservoir up there pretty regularly. And
Yeah.
yeah, Clark's Hill is your kind of home body of water, right?
Yes, sir. That's the home pond. It's about an hour or so away from there, from the house where I live at. Give or take what area of the lake you want to fish. If you want to go way up the river, uh, you're looking at some of the spots are about 2 hours away. On Clark's Hill, it's almost like Russell is closer in certain areas depending on what route you take. But yeah, it's definitely been it's my home pond. I love it. Learn a lot. Every day is something new. Out there just throws curveballs at you all the time. Uh, Blueback herring lake is wild. You know, you could be on giant fish one day and go back there the next day, and if your bait's not there, you might as well pack your stuff up and kick the trolling motor in high gear or whatever, start paddling for your life, you know, to try to find some bait or something like that, or a new pattern, because it'll really hurt your feelings.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Clarksville. That was our second stop in the Georgia Tour Kayak Series this year, and kind of let you talk about your experience. You placed first in that tournament with 82.25 inches. So
Yeah,
kind of bring us back to that day if you can remember, because I know you fished some other events later in
right.
the year. But yeah, kind of bring us back to that day that you
Sure,
fished that.
sure. I probably never forget that day. It's kind of wild. Started off the day, you know, just fishing normally like I normally fish. Trying to locate using my electronics to try to locate some active bait balls, you know, and the kind of depth that I like to fish in. I believe it was during kind of like the tricklings of a herring spawn type deal, you know, going on. There was a little bit of that stuff going on, and there was a lot of active fish up shallow. So it was definitely fun. First, I think I found some spots pretty early in the day, off of some rocky points. And I wasn't using that of a crankbait or any type of shad lures. I believe I was using some type of jig or a shaky head. Just bouncing it in them rocks, just feeling for that hard bottom and trying to hit a fish in the head, you know. Try to see if they interest whatever I was throwing at them, interest them in a little snack, you know, and give me a little show. So um that dwindled. The point bite kind of went away and the sun came out, and I went to just looking for shade lines and areas that, you know, some big largemouth will want to hang out at. You know, I kind of got away from the spots after a little while, and just went shallow and just went to hunting and trying to hit every little piece of stick cover. I mean, these fish, they get in the weirdest spots, you know, like um, they'll look like rocks sometimes, or just like a log sitting in the sand, nothing around them, you know. Just you can a lot of these fish you can sight fish, you know, all throughout the year. You just gotta be able to trick them and stay far enough away where you don't spook them. Once you spook them, you got to basically leave them alone and forget about them, because they'll waste a lot of time. They'll waste a
Yeah,
lot of time trying to piddle paddle with those guys, and sometimes they're just, I don't know what's wrong with them. They're just in that mode where they're just ridiculously dumb, and you can just throw a stick at them and they'll eat it. And I love that time of the year, but that rarely happens when in a tournament. It usually happens when you're out having a good time with your buddies or out there by yourself, you know, and in tune with Mother Nature, and you just get to experience that kind of stuff like when nobody's around. That's some of the best times that I've had also. But later on throughout the day, I think I found some brush and some laydowns, and I hit those with a shaky head. Really good bait. On the hill, you can put anything on it. I mean, crawls, trick worms, you name it. I mean, you could put a fluke on there. They're really good. They're really good. I use them a lot for bed fishing. Certain types of shaky heads that stand up on the head really good. They keep them little ticklers wiggling really good. I use that a
yeah,
lot. Sometimes it helps better than a peg Texas rig, because that Texas rig will lay down on you, and they kind of like that stuff, like just wiggling in their face, versus laid down on the sweet spot in the bed. But yeah, then throughout the day, I called a couple of fish and found some largemouth a little further back in the back of the pockets or the creek where I was at. And let me see. Yeah, I caught a big fish early on top water. This is the little my kicker fish. This is the worst thing. So I caught my kicker first thing in the morning on top water on a pencil popper, and it was the wildest thing because I there was a bass boat tournament launching out of there. And there's usually a bunch of tournaments that launch out of there, but it's just a bunch of bass boats taking off, and our line's in time was a little bit after their takeoff time. So I'm watching bass boats take off, take off, take off, and I'm over here praying, like, please don't go to my spot. Please don't go to my spot. And lo and behold, like two boats take off, and one just like kind of goes out of the no wake zone and veers off and idles off. And the direction that I was heading, as soon as it was time to launch for me, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he's just gonna go way in the back and not go where I wanted to go. And my starting point was a really long clay point with rocks on it and some stumps at the end. And there was a lot of fish activity there. But once it was time for me to go, there's two bass boats on either end of this point, and I just decided to go back the other direction and fish. And I ended up catching this, pulling into a cove, and just threw my top water, like lined up with the ditch, following the ditch line all the way out of the pocket that I was in. And like four twitches in, boom, big old 20 something, 20-inch. I think it was a 20-inch bass. I never got to turn them in. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, the big old nice bass, like the best thing you want to happen in a tournament starting off, just a big old top water bite. It gets into the boat, you net them and get them, put them on and send them on. I put it in the net instead of submitting the fish. Um, but yeah, later on, I kept fishing, and I ended up catching my limit and culling a few fish throughout that, and um, waited to drop a bomb. Like I was waiting. Hey, if anybody just knocks me out of first place. So I think I was in first for. Well, I was just at the top for a little while, and ended up. I don't know if I ended up moving down or up. I think I moved a few places throughout the day. So I called my buddy, and I was on the phone with my buddy and had another phone in the other hand. And I went and reached down to adjust my rudder, and bloop, the phone with the fish in the live well, not that hadn't been submitted, was in the water and gone forever.
Oh Lord.
So that was wild. I had that limit that you mentioned, like 80 something inches the rest of the day, and that fish that ended up at the bottom of the lake would have gave me a 5-inch coal and ended up with big fish also. So, but I always say if you're meant to win, you can't screw it up all the time. So like doesn't matter, like it's happened multiple like tournaments where the craziest stuff happens, rod breaks, you do something dumb like a 20-pounder jumps off,
Yeah.
like all kind of crazy stuff. But yeah, uh it's pretty wild. It was a fun day, phenomenal time of the year to fish Clark's Hill. That time of the year, anytime that water hits like 50 degrees, even if the water's like in the 40s to 50s, like in pre-spawn, that lake, just so it hits that time of the year and the water could still be cold, not enough, it doesn't hit that, it doesn't necessarily need to hit that 60-degree mark, and that lake really turns on. Um, Yeah, I've seen. I don't know if you guys seen it. They had the MLF Invitational out here pre-spawn, and Dakota Ebear, he was catching some big bags, and he ended up, I think, winning it that time. One of his key lures was a shaky head. He's
Yeah,
fishing shaky head setup.
yeah. Unfortunately, that you're talking about Clarks Hill, and there's a lot of tournaments right on. You could probably go up right now and get in a night or afternoon tournament any day of the week
Oh yeah,
up there.
oh yeah.
um, and you got all these, all these bass clubs running that lake on the South Carolina side, the Georgia side. So
Absolutely.
any given Saturday, you're probably looking, especially during the spawn, pre-spawn, during the summer, you're probably looking 100, 200 boats a day out on that lake.
Yeah, it's a heavily pressured lake. Don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of traffic and stuff like that. But I mean, I haven't really ran into anybody, that there's a lot of sportsmen out there, that are pretty decent. There's a lot of folks out there that aren't, of course, and there's negligence and stuff. But um, a lot of the fisheries in Georgia, it's just South Georgia is such a great area to fish in. From the East Coast all the way north, south, and west. There's just so many bodies of water for people to fish. And most of the locations are just about as busy on that time of the year. Pre-spawn anywhere is wild, and during the summer months it gets a little hectic up too with them wake boats and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
We need to get what's his name, Skip, to come out here and start confiscating boats for shooting weights. uh,
Yeah, it's a different ball game on the big reservoirs, especially we're in a little plastic boat, and you
oh
got
yeah,
that big boy cranking up that 225 Yamaha on the
oh
back
yeah,
end,
the cold
coming
them cold
screaming by
starts.
you.
Yeah, man. I love it. I love it. Especially when they pull in and cut you off, and then
Yeah,
they get in your area before they, I mean, I just love it. I've had multiple occasions where they do that. They run up through there and just throw everything at them, and as they're coming out on the other side, I'm setting the hook on one, and it's coming out the water, and you see them crank up their boat and get up out of there.
yeah, yeah. I had that happen to me on the first event of the year on Lake Tobasaki out of Macon.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a fun body of water to fish too.
yeah, so
I'll be excited to go back there again and explore that lake a little bit more than I did. I like the way it's set up. It was a small fishery. That
yeah,
way you can go out there and kind of figure it out kind of quick, and that way, and it won't spread as especially for kayaks and stuff like that. That'd be like I think that was a good place too, to fish for the kayaks and stuff like that.
yeah. That I have fished that in the boat and a kayak, so um, it's kind of weird how that thing fishes. Because you can go in February right now, and you can load the boat
Yeah,
and go back in March and not catch a thing. So
yeah, yeah.
it's kind of weird how, because that water in that lake is actually, a lot of people don't know this, is actually used for drinking water. They pump that into, when it goes
Okay.
out the dam, they pump it out into a, I
Right.
guess, like a
Like
recycling
the
center.
recirculation.
Yeah. So
Okay.
a lot of that, yeah, just like Juliet and some of them other, what is that? Java Lucas or something up there. All that
Okay.
water's, yeah, all that water's in them reservoirs. So, but yeah, so let's hop to the third event that you placed. You placed third place. You placed second place at Tobasaki.
Right.
Um, and let's talk about the Sinclair event.
That was
Um, yeah,
that was another one that I tell you, I can go out and practice and have a blast, and it's the story of a lot of guys. have a blast and hit them real good, and then come back for the tournament. And I had a good tournament. Don't get me wrong. What ended up happening to me about 3/4 of the way, or about halfway through, I got on a frog bite, and then I didn't have like I had my braid break like halfway through my spool, and I didn't have anything. I didn't have another rod to where I could just take the reel and put it on my frog rod and retie and get back to work. So I ended up tying both of my lines of braid together, and that worked for about 5 fish. That didn't really do too much, but then I hooked a good one, and my line broke, and uh it was wild because I'm sitting here watching my braid like shoot through up underneath the dock, and I'm sitting here trying to paddle to get my line, because I've had this happen before when my line breaks and the fish stays pegged, and I get back to my line and reel the fish in by hand. So I'm sitting here fumbling and trying to get over here to this line disappearing under a dock, and I hear like a splash, and it's like a 3 pounder spits the frog. Like it swam underneath the pontoon boat, underneath the dock, and comes out the other side and just spits my frog out. And I'm like, okay, well, let me get my frog back. So the only other thing I had to really throw this frog around where I could get the same action was like a spinning rod with 10-pound line. And the rest of the day, I caught a few fish on it, but I was just not getting, I guess, the right hook sets on these fish where I can dig that frog hook really deep into them. And they weren't having it, And I ended up, I guess, in what is it, third place. It was a fun tournament. I like St. Clair. Definitely excited this coming up season. It's in there twice. Once I believe early on in the year.
Yeah, we're actually I think we're fishing that thing 4 times because we're going to hold a championship round there as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, so this next year in 2025 we're going to Lake Juliet,
Okay.
which is no boat over 25 horsepower can be on that lake.
Mm.
So good kayak lake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine there's probably some pretty decent fish in there.
Yeah, I think that lake is known for striper fishing, and
Okay.
yeah, there are some big stripers in there. So,
Hmm.
come March, get ready.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely
So
be out there throwing March. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
yeah,
It could be a bad, I mean, depending on when the mayflies decide to hatch. Because that's one of the things you mentioned about Tobus Coffee in February
yeah,
and versus March. Depending on when that shad spawn deal happens and all them mayflies get in there. And I know last year we had that cicada thing going on, and that kind of changed some stuff up also. So
yeah. Them bad
uh,
boys were crazy on Clark's Hill.
oh yeah, yeah,
It was
it's wild. It sounded like a scary movie if you pulled into the right cove.
yeah. I launched in Keggs Creek and went underneath the bridge and went left.
Okay.
And that creek runs way back up in there. That little arm off that creek,
Right.
and I stopped in this one little spot because it had a good point come off of it, and I found some shell cracker beds. I saw a pontoon boat there earlier in the morning, and they were pulling. I'm talking about grown shell crackers.
There's
I
some grown
said,
ones out there.
and I said, there's got to be bass hanging around there, and I
Yes,
ran.
sir.
I found the beds by live or by side scan, and about the time the fish started busting top water, and
Hmm.
the only thing I had tied on was a jerk bait. So I threw that 110 over there on that loco made by 13 fishing, and I popped it about twice. And that I think the first fish I caught was like 18 1/4 inches,
Yeah.
and I only caught 2 fish out of there. I was like, "What the heck, man?"
Hmm. Yeah. There's some grown shell crackers you can get on some certain time of the year, man. That's one of the things me and my wife go when I have a little bit of time off. We get on the kayaks and go out, and a lot of times I find some big old shell crackers on these islands. If there's enough water on those bushes, those small
Yeah.
bushes that get on them islands, man, I mean, you just need like 4 to 10 foot, and it's just like every time, like one. I mean, I think we've got like the biggest one we've caught is like a pound and a quarter. So they're sure enough, like they're sure enough a blast.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hey man, we're about halfway through this show, dude. When you're talking fishing, it goes by pretty dang quick.
Yeah, I just noticed that little thing ticking up there.
Yeah,
Uh,
that. So if you want to refresh your coffee, I'm gonna kick 2 commercials off right quick, man, and of some sponsors,
Sounds good.
and we'll be right back.
Let's do
Omnia
it.
Pro gives you the confidence to eliminate dead water on thousands of lakes across the U.S. Exclusively through Omnia, utilize our map layers containing critical real-time satellite information to see water temperature, water clarity, and important weather data all in one place, along with 1-foot contours for navionics and detailed CMAP social mapping. Matched with Omnia's industry-leading loyalty credit program on all your tackle and gear needs, this is the only app you need in your arsenal for success on the water.
Hey, and welcome back after that short commercial break. So, second half of the show, we're going to bring Marvin back on here in a minute. We're going to get him to talk about his experience with the Georgia Bass Nation up on Lake Hartwell. And I'm looking at a picture here in a native blue kayak. I think it's 24.5-inch fish that we're going to show here in a minute once we get him back on the show. So let's grab Marvin back on the show here, and welcome back, Marvin, for the second half here.
What's going on? I heard something about that big fish.
Yeah, there's a blue. I'm looking at a blue native kayak with some type of big species in the bottom of this thing on an orange catch board.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you had the chance to go fish the Georgia Bass Nation on Hartwell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was
And was that the championship round?
It was. It was.
It was just the open. Okay.
It was it was a championship event.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2 day on Lake Hartwell. Is a fun experience. Another blueback lake. One of the lakes I go to a lot. But yeah, I just got lucky, and looked at a dock that was just out in the middle of nowhere on the main lake, and said, "Hey, there's got to be a fish over there. There's like the only structure you could really see up shallow, so it's got to be holding a largemouth." So I got over there to it and fished the crap out of it. Didn't catch nothing, and went to paddling back to my location where I originally had did did pretty good at in the morning, and saw like this one of them logs up shallow, and pitched over there to it, and it just created a big old swirl, and it swirled on my jig, and it didn't when it swirled on it, I guess, I don't know if I startled it or it went to go bite the jig, but I reeled it in real quick, and it was probably like an 8-yard pitch, like in eyesight, and I was standing up. So pitched in there, and she came out of that big old clay cloud and just inhaled the jig, and I let her swim off with it and set the hook on her, and she came up with her mouth closed, and I didn't see no jig, and I was excited as could be, and went to pray, and got her in, and I think there's a camper sitting up on the point, and the guy come out the camper trying to see what was going on because I was yelling so loud. I don't think I've caught a fish like that in a while. It's been a while, especially in a tournament. Definitely one of the ones you need. in a tournament. It bumped me up from, I think, like 19th place to 6th place on day one. So I was definitely in a good position for day two to make a move, but 2-day tournaments are something I need to work on, and hopefully try have a little bit better luck on day two, because day two was the struggle bus for me.
Oh, for sure. I was kind of keeping tabs because I knew some guys, JC Sanchez and you and some others fishing that tournament, and I just kind of wanted to see what the boys that I know was going to come out of that as a 2-day, and I was rooting for you, especially
Definitely.
especially after I saw this fish on the leaderboard. I was like, yep, 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 yep. If he can hold on to big fish,
Yeah.
yeah, he
I
can
was
take home.
I was
He can
definitely
take home a little check at least.
yeah, I was definitely happy that I didn't go at home empty-handed.
Yeah,
Most of the time with Bass Nation, Georgia Bass Nation, they have Steve O over there. Shout outs to him for putting on great events and stuff. And I normally, they raffle stuff off. Just I even the our stuff.
right.
At Southeast, it's a blast. Like, I enjoy it. If I don't catch anything, like those, that just being able to fish with a great group of guys is one of the things I enjoy the most, and meeting up back together and getting to talk fishing and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's always a good camaraderie among us kayak anglers, and everybody shares their stories and their lost phone stories and
Yeah.
big fish. And, I would have probably shot myself in the foot if I'd have lost my phone.
Yeah, and I like that split second I thought about it. Like, I put my hand on my zipper real quick to zip down, and I was just like, man, I'm probably gonna lose like a rod and break something trying to jump off the side of this thing and be down there, then because it was like 10 foot of water, but if it would have fluttered like a spoon, I would have had a
Yeah,
chance.
would
But
have.
it just died by it. Pew!
Yeah, everybody, if you don't have something on your phone, either get you some type of tether, a piece of rope, or something.
Something
Uh,
tape from the dollar store from the night before or something.
but yeah, man, it was a heck of a 2024 season for everybody. Eric Hawks put up over 80 something inches on the Sinclair event. You've put up 80s over 80 something inches. I hadn't figured up all the like the total inches caught for the year yet.
Right.
So that's my next thing on the board. I've got to sit down. I've been trying to get everything worked out for next year, 2025. So what are your expectations for 2025, Marvin?
Hopefully I could keep consistency is my main goal, and staying consistent and being in that top group of anglers. And just keep that consistency as far as like learning goes, trying new techniques, focusing on targeting, different species, like as far as like spots, shoalies, and trying to figure out what they all like to do and eat, and largemouth. Yeah, just staying on top of my game, and hold climbing this kayaking deal. Stepping up this ladder as quick as I can, and as humbly as I can, because there's a lot of guys that have been out here, that we fish with, that have been doing it since like the very beginning, like before they even had pedal drives, and
Yeah.
like it's wild. And it's a humbling experience, definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure. If anybody's looking at taking your level, if you're at a local level and you want to go to a state level, then the Georgia Bass Nation, or if you're in South Carolina, the South Carolina Bass Nation, that's kind of your state level stuff. And then you take you to your national level. The word has it today that Hobie BOS is not putting on a 2025 season. So Steve-O at Bassmasters does a hell of a job putting on what he does with Bassmasters. If you want to get on that national level, reach out to Steve, and he will direct you in the right way to get there.
Yeah, definitely. They have a pretty cool 2025 roster. I think this year I'm going to try to stay on the state level, and just focus on the state level a little bit longer. Maybe slide to one of these elite opens if the opportunity arises. Maybe I can convince the wife to take a trip somewhere, and tag the kayak along with us. Maybe that'll provide some incentive on getting there. But other than that, I was really the one of the main reasons I fished that championship is I wanted to go over to Fork and I want to fish Lake Fork really bad. I've seen some of the bags and just the size of the fish that get caught out there, and Texas is definitely on the bucket list. Whether it's Toledo Bend or Fork or that and Cato, Louisiana.
Louisiana. Yeah, that talking about Lake Fork. Yeah, I can't wait to see what gets pulled out of there.
Oh yeah.
That's a heck of a fishery. So is Cato, man. Look at what Gene Jensen did up there on that they fished two different bodies of water, and that man sat in one spot and put up 100 inches.
Oh yeah, man, it's wild. It's wild how big of a difference lakes with just the different type of lakes as far as blueback lakes go, and just like highland lowland reservoirs versus natural fisheries that have always they got grass, sand, rock. They got a little bit of everything. Cypress trees. It's amazing how the fish set up so much more differently. Like and you could see that on St. Clair versus Clark's Hill. Like you can just sit in one spot and find some good hydrilla and just back to back to back. Until they don't want it. There's nothing left, or there's just they don't want to eat anymore.
Yeah, that's right. We've got Travis Does Fishing in the chat here. He says you are the man, Marvin.
Appreciate it, Travis.
Hey, if y'all don't know Travis is putting on an event in South Carolina this year. Y'all go search that out. I'm hoping to at least make one event with them. We were supposed to do a joint event, but we just couldn't get some dates nailed down, especially with my work schedule and things like that. But let me throw this schedule up here, Marvin, and we'll talk about it a little bit for 2025. So this is the Georgia Tour Kayak Series for 2025. So we're going to go to Lake Juliet, going to Sinclair in April. August is going to be the Clark's Hill event. Yeah, and another Lake Sinclair event in September, October, going back to Juliet, and then the championship round in November on Sinclair. So.
Yep. St. Clair. I just spent a week on St. Clair for Thanksgiving in Rocky Creek.
Yep. Jason Starley's neck of the woods.
Yeah, I got to dibble around in there a little bit, and I was way in the back of the creek back there, and there's a little bit of bass back there, but I couldn't find any grass, so we were doing the family thing, so I kind of like put fishing on number 2, and everybody was catching brim and catfish. But as far as that goes, Jason Starley's definitely shined on St. Clair, especially like some of the night fishing he's done. And
oh yeah, for sure, he's got it nailed there.
Oh yeah, definitely. That St. Clair has grown on me this year. It's definitely going to be one of those fisheries that burns the mark on my arm as far as going out there, because I did fish with the Bass Nation with that too, and pre-spawn, that was wild. They like a chatterbait out there a little bit.
Yeah, they do. They do. A lot of people know I fished that Brian Latimer tournament back in March of last year out there, and that's when all that rain came through, and man, it was
Muddies
like,
and stuff.
oh my God, dude! I was like, and the only thing I could catch them on was a Charlie Brewer slider worm, which is like a finesse technique. And I
Right.
caught all my fish behind the dock between that and a rock pile on a point that come out from Sinclair Marina.
Okay.
And I come in seventh place. I sat in one spot all day long. I said, if I catch 3 fish here, the fish are going to be here. They can just reload. And
Yeah,
that's what.
just one of them spots that reload, and then
Yep.
just another wave comes in and stops for a little visit and see if there's anything there before they head a little bit further back into
Yep.
shallower water.
Yep. So yeah, it's
I'm excited. I'm excited to fish this year with y'all. I'll be fishing a little bit with everybody. There's a couple of co events, and I probably jump into one of those tournaments that doesn't interfere with the schedules.
Yep. Yeah, and also there's going to be another Sinclair event. I'll go ahead and put this out to the world. Me and Jim Lumpkin from Lake Country Fishing have been talking.
Okay.
Jim is a boat man. He does a lot of stuff with boat tournaments up there, and kind of does a lot of stuff with the Lake Sinclair and Lake Oconee.
Okay.
But we were talking about doing a big kayak tournament up there.
Sweet.
Sinclair. So that's the reason why we're not fishing anything in like May, June, or July.
Okay.
Yeah, May, June, and July. Had to look at the schedule, just because we're trying to nail down a date in there somewhere, to try to get everybody on the lake and kind of make it a big event once a year.
Yeah, that sounds like something that'll definitely bring a lot of folks out of hiding and stuff like that. Because just like on my lake, there's like so many anglers out here that I've ran into that are just either getting into it and I guess building up to getting into the tournament stuff. And I always tell them, I was like, man, it's just like going fishing, for the most part. You just kind of add a little bit of competitive edge, and some of those lucky days might win you some money.
Yeah, I even brought this up to Jim, and I said, man, let's do boats and kayaks and just teach the boat world how to measure a fish.
I'm down. Some of the out of up here at Wildwood, they do the Average Joe's tournament, and I was just looking for something to do, and I ended up having to work that Saturday, but I was getting ready to strap my live well on the back of my Titan and use my Z Pro lithium battery that I use at the brickyards and stuff for my live well that powers my live well, keeps my fish alive. Sometimes when it gets a little hot, I throw a little G juice in there. But I strap like a 40-quart Dollar General cooler on the back of my Titan. And sometimes I enter some of these bass boat tournaments, it just confidence level way up here,
oh yeah, for sure. Hey, I know a lot. I know several kayakers that do that have a little makeshift live well that they throw their 5 fish in and
oh yeah,
right off to the boat ramp or something.
Got a $50 bubbler on there from Academy, and I do that a lot on Fridays when I get off work. They got the shootout up at the brickyards.
Yeah.
And everybody's out. There's bass boats out there, John boats with 2 people. I go out there on my Titan, in the swamp, with the gators and the crickets and all the other critters and stuff like that, trying to catch me a biggin.
Hey, Travis has you a question here, Marvin. It says, you guys still going late fall tactics or starting to fish the winter pattern? What are you guys throwing around and through the new year?
Um, I'm not. I haven't gone. Like I went the other day and was still on my late fall pattern, and I caught like three non-scores, and it was tough that day. I don't know if it was like the changing in patterns and stuff like that in the weather and stuff, but it just was. I would say winter patterns are probably going to be best thing going right now. Um, moving baits, winter cranking is pretty good. Gets pretty good in certain areas. One of my favorite things to do, just go out there and search for quality versus quantity. And I've had some of the most phenomenal days, and just what I said earlier on in the show, when we have like a warm snap with rain and the water's cold. I mean, it just does something to the fish. If you find the bait, and the fish will be there, and you will have a ball. I mean, it's worth it.
Yeah, learning to fish them big reservoirs. I look for two. I look majority for two things. I look for the bait first. If I can see shad or something flickering,
Right.
um, and then second, I look for the birds.
There you go.
And then if I see the stripe, my third thing is if I see stripers blowing up, there's going to be
Oh,
largemouth mixed in with them.
yeah,
You might
yeah.
you might catch you some good stripers, but I guarantee you're going to catch some largemouth out of that bunch as well.
Right, right. And then usually when you find the bait and the birds together and you see the stripers way out deeper, it's somewhere in that area. There's got to be some active fish up shallow. And when I mean up shallow, it could be like in wintertime, it could be a foot all the way maybe to like 15. What I would recommend is shallow in the winter. And the reason I say 15 is because sometimes the bait just gets way out there in like 40 to like 90 foot of water. Where on those days, there's usually the days where you don't really catch them up shallow and it's a slow day. But yeah, when that magical thing happens, when you find those birds and stripers schooling out deep, I normally try to search up shallow. If I don't find any largemouth in them stripers and stuff like that, I'd normally go up shallow and try to search those areas for, because if there's bait there and the stripers are there, there's just like a, and I don't have live scope. Like I just bought it and haven't installed it yet. I ended up biting the bullet and getting it because of just I need it, to figure out if I really need it,
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of the things I really want to experiment with also, to add on to my fishing package, my mothership, I call it. But yeah, winter patterns are definitely in. Like I said, I've been getting pretty good bites with on a jig, whatever match it to your watercolor. If you're fishing for spots, if you're in an area where there's some decent spots, maybe changing up the color of, like, throw some green pumpkin with like something bright, because spots are more of like a visual feeders, and they like those bright colors. You can really catch them on some chartreuse and some reds, maybe in some clear water, and you can use that same pattern uh, in the muddy water, and catch them just as good. But you just got to be, like I said, you just got to put those things together. You got to have that bait there.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. It's got another question for you. Do you throw top water in the wintertime?
um, I was throwing top water about a month ago. I haven't gone fishing in a while, to where I can like kind of figure out what's really going on due to Helene and all the tree work and stuff like that. But there's times where I will throw a top water or something that is like a top water subsurface lure, that kind of gives you a little bit of both worlds, where you, if they don't want to eat on top, you can run it subsurfacely and still get those bites.
Right. Yep. So yeah, man. glad you could join us tonight, man. And I'm not going to keep you any more longer.
Man, we could stay on here for
Yeah,
hours.
let me tell you, fishermen can talk fishing for hours. That's
Everybody
like,
watching will be asleep, and I'll still be going.
yeah, 3:30 comes early for me in the morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I got to work all weekend. Unfortunately, it's my weekend to work. So, but no, man. So again, congratulations on the Angler of the Year,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and hopefully we can bring more people out to these tournaments.
Yes, sir.
Get more people on board. I'm just reading the comments over here. Travis says Marvin's the fish and what Bubba Gump is the shrimp.
Yes, sir. We like to catch them in the mouth.
But yeah, it's been a great show. I'm gonna throw you back on the back in the green room real quick, Marvin.
All right.
But I do appreciate your time coming on. And
absolutely, anytime.
And we'll get you back on here maybe mid 2025 to see how your season's going, and go from there, man.
Sounds good. Looking forward. I'm coming for that Angler of the Year, second time in a row.
Hey, be back-to-back champion, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So hang tight with me in the green room, and I'll be right back with you, sir. All right, guys. Thank you for joining Mr. Marvin Santana, the 2024 Georgia Tour Kayak Series champion. One hell of a fisherman. And if you need any tree service work, he is up for that as well. So look him up on Instagram, Facebook, and everything else. And hope everybody has a safe and Merry Christmas. A Happy New Year. Stay safe on the roads in your travels. If you're traveling any distance, give people your itinerary, your family members, to know when you are expected. Just some safety tips from your local law enforcement. So thank you once again for watching the Main Contained Fishing podcast on the Paddle and Fin Network. And always wear your PFD when you're on the water. In the wintertime, make sure you dress for the weather and fish on.